When I walk in, every ancestor move. Every cell in my body got an ancient groove. I ain't searching for truth, I embody the proof. You look at me, you see the lineage. Every obstacle shift when I rise in.
Hello, good people, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contractor. I am Ritwan Hill, and with me I have the man, the myth, the legend, the ambassador of peace. And if you don't know who he is, man, you better ask AI, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how you doing today?
A little nervous in the service today, man. Based on the calendar, we have a day and a half left in this ceasefire, and I'm praying that wiser heads prevail.
Yes, sir. We got it. So we have a day and a half for the ceasefire. Then we have about 8 days left before, either a 30-day extension or the Congress doing something with the war power resolution to, combat this. It's a lot of critical inflection points happening right now.
Well, we don't have to wait for Congress to do something with the war powers resolution, right? Congress has the authority right now, and based on the economic downturn that we're seeing in this nation, Congress should have already acted. So Congress has the authority right now to take control of the narrative in the Middle East, and I equally pray that they do so.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. So, let's just dive right into it now. We say that Congress have the ability to do something, but even before Congress, it start with we the people. Now, why do we act like that we don't have any control? Why is the general population, the civilians of this United States of America, why they act like we don't have control?
There has been a multi-generational effort to condition the population of these United States of America. And it's through things like classical conditioning that, they've been employing over years, and strategies that have grown to strategies like entrainment that makes a population that owns a constitutional republic like ours docile enough to allow its politicians, right, to allow its politicians to behave in the way that they are. And so to say that in a way that laymen would understand it, there has been a long effort to educate and condition the population not to react, not to think critically. And so when they hear the bell ring, ding, the song starts playing in their head. My bologna has a first name. And it doesn't stop playing until they go to the grocery store and consume that product. So the reason that these things happen is because the population has been conditioned. The media sources that they're using for their information have been tainted, and they aren't able to think critically and independently about the issues that are in front of them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, so if we elect the representatives but don't hold them accountable, are we the ones actually responsible for that outcome because we weren't holding them accountable?
Sure. Ultimately, we are, victims, or should I say not victims, but accountable for those outcomes. But I brought the term victim up because we have a war that's going on right now, and that war, the battlefield, is between your ears, right? They're fighting for control of how you think and how you react to the stimulus that comes at you. And so, as I said just a moment ago, there's been a multi-generational effort to condition the population to react in a certain way. And so many of these people out there are casualties, right? They're victims of this particular system. The younger people call them NPCs, right? Non-character players, because they walk around in a robotic state and, they respond appropriately to the stimulus. But those individuals that are out there not exercising their constitutional right to manage their population, manage their politicians, rather, those individuals are victims. They're casualties of this particular war.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you mentioned about, when we go into the grocery store and we feel it, right? Now, there's been the terminology famine getting thrown around, and it's starting to reoccur more. The fact that because a lot of the fertilizer has to come through the Strait of Hormuz, and the fact that we're in the planting season right now, being spring, and the fact that nothing's getting planted, that's going to have a trickle down effect. And when it's time for the harvest season in fall, so this is a very real thing. Like, so if you could help me articulate or explain this in a better fashion of why this famine is such a real thing and not just something that's getting thrown around in the popular media.
I don't think I could explain it any better than you just did. The truth of the matter is the population that we have on this planet is sustainable because we're able to create the crop yields necessary from the agriculture that we have, because we have come up with the scientific optimums to produce that outcome. And one of those inputs that produces that scientific optimum is fertilizer, right? And so if you disrupt, right, any of the ingredients, right, in the agricultural process, you're going to have a smaller yield. What the Strait of Hormuz has done, it has choked off the supply of fertilizer. It has choked off the supply of fertilizer to portions of the world during the critical planting season. That means that there's going to be a yield reduction, and that yield reduction is going to produce winners and losers. And the winners and losers in a financial market are the ones that have versus the ones that have not. And those that have will be able to purchase the increasing cost of sustenance. Those that have not will either suffer, they will starve, or they will die, right? That's just a natural outgrowth of the condition that we have in place. And that's the downrange effect of what we're looking at. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. But what happens, again, when you have a heavily conditioned population that doesn't think critically for themselves, they are looking to CNN. They're looking to the mainstream media for the things that they believe, and they're not sitting down and looking at the evidence for themselves. And therefore, the politicians and leaders can piss all over their head and tell them it's raining.
Yes, sir. Now, do you think that the reason why Congress may not be reining this in is because they're in that upper K? Well, I would assume that they would be in that upper case, so they may feel it, but it's not as an effect to them as it would be to the lower K population.
No, I believe that the reason that Congress is not acting is because we, the people, aren't engaging, right? The Congress, right, serves at the discretion of the people. And that's why we have this, exercise underway to demonstrate to the people that we do still actually have the authority to influence the outcome of our Congress. We are hyper focused on the idea that we need to make America safe again, and we need to do that through an economic foundation of security, right? We need a national security industrial base that ensures that America is safe again. And we are hyper focused on making sure that him and her who bore the battle has the first right of refusal against that. And as you all know, and I'm going to bring up the plug for the bill that we have right now. We have two bills that are passing through Congress. These are alley-oops, right? Because the Congress promised myself and Mr. Bill Elmore that they would pass one of these bills 2 years going. So we need your help, our veteran, our Patriot community, in getting those bills over the finish line during this fiscal year, during this calendar process. And I don't know if you have the website, Mr. Hill, but we've created a website to make it easy for you to communicate with your congressmen or women, because, you know, most of our educated population didn't do very well in civics. And so, you know, we don't exactly know how to engage our Congress. And so we've created this environment. And if you'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, Mr. Hill pointed this out in our last telecast. We've given you a letter example that you can edit to fit your voice, your community, and let your congressman or woman know that you want them to support by co-sponsoring this particular legislation. So what I'm saying is, we've given you a letter so you don't even have to think about what you need to say. Just edit that particular letter and then scroll up just a little bit, Mr. Hill, and go all the way up to the Contact Your Congress place. In this particular instance, what we've done is we've made it simple for you to contact your Congress. All you got to do is click through this particular button, and it's going to take you to a Democracy.io website where all you need to do is put your location information in. That's going to bring back your congressional representatives. That's both your senators or senator and your House of Representative members. If you click right to them, all you would have to do then is copy the letter that you've created, paste it in there, put the subject in there, and bada bit, bada boom, your Congress member has received a request from its constituents. And this is the beauty about the interconnected environment that the Internet of Things has provided for us. This pathway allows us to directly communicate. And could you bring us back big full screen, Mr. Hill? This pathway allows us to directly communicate our interest to our congressmen and women, right? That's a capability that heretofore didn't exist. And so we had to rely on opinion polls, right? We had to rely on information that came from the news media to determine where things were and what the interest of our Congress is. Today, we don't have to rely on that, right? We can communicate with them directly. And if we engage, we will produce the outcome that we're looking at. And so to date, we've had a new co-sponsor occur on the side of the Contract Our Veterans Act, and we had one or two co-sponsors on the Credit Union Act. Our objective is to get the full Senate and the full House as co-sponsors of this bill, because we need them to demonstrate to we the people that they have the people's work prioritized. We need them to demonstrate to us that they are not distracted by partisan issues. They're not distracted by issues that are associated with their political action committees, that their highest and best use is delivering to the American people. And we can get an indication of that by seeing if they will take this simple, no-cost action. Show to the American people your patriotism. Show to the American people your commitment to him and her who bore the battle. And we will use that litmus test as justification for the decision-making that we will employ during the midterm election. And I'll put the big talking stick down now, Mr. Hill, because I know I can go down a rabbit hole.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, the audience definitely need to hear this. And what I was going to just pull up for you guys is briefly the two bills, which is the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. And as you can see from co-sponsors, and you can see the active dates of when they signed as a co-sponsor. So we go scroll down. As of 4/15, April 15th, we have Representative Carball. Excuse me if I chopped your name up. Charge it to my head, not my heart. And then on the Senate side, as of 4/30. Oh wait, no, this. Okay, excuse me. Yes, that was that was it for the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. And for Contract Our Veterans Act, on the Senate side, we have 2 co-sponsors still. So we need some more engagement from you guys. But on the House side, we have 7 co-sponsors. And the latest being Representative Barr of Kentucky and Representative Haradopoulos in as of 4/16/2026. So please, guys, reach out to your Congress and ask them to support these 2 bills.
And if I could make a quick interjection here or contribution here to the House of Representative members and the senators, we are monitoring these dates, right? The date that you sign up as co-sponsor of this bill is going to be important to our decision to tell our constituents in your district whether or not they should support your reelection campaign. So consider this to be a serious matter, because I am as serious as a heart attack.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Now, I wanted to hone in on a topic that you had mentioned about reshoring our industrial base, and that, making sure that our patriots, our veterans, get that opportunity. Reason why we're pushing these 2 bills, because they play an important part in the ecosystem of veterans. Imagine now, I did want to ask the question, right? So we have the SDVOSBs. We have our own sole source threshold, right? Is it too much to ask to remove that threshold?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And not only is it not too much to ask them to remove that sole source threshold for disabled veterans, but also the criteria for sole sourcing, which tends to be quite onerous and restrictive, needs to be looked at. And as a matter of fact, there are a number of policies and programs throughout our government system that are affecting the economics of our nation that we need to take a look at. If we look at things like the vocational rehabilitation and employment program, right? There is a self-employment track on that program that could be extremely viable. It could be extremely valuable in ensuring that we have new disabled veteran entrants into the supply chain, supporting the supply chain of the nation. But there's some bottlenecks in that program that need to be cured. And I think that us veterans, especially those who have been through the program, like myself and Congressman Van Orden, who are big champions for this change, should be given a contribution to the decisions on how we adjust that program. Let me give you a perfect example of this. When Mr. Hill was going through his effort to apply for the program, they were delivering a ruling that changed the policy in the program, right? For the first time in decades. And one of the changes that they made to the program was they eliminated the ability of disabled veterans with existing businesses to participate in the program. And from a veteranpreneur perspective, that didn't make sense to me, right? Because just because I signed up in Sam's, right, just because I was smart enough to get through the VA certification process or the SBA certification process, doesn't mean that I have a going concern. Right, I could be a solopreneur out there, still trying to figure it out, and that's where the assistance of the vocational rehabilitation and readiness program, I forget the acronym, that's where it could be used to support me. But no, right, someone in their infinite wisdom saw it to be fiscally more responsible to not include existing disabled veteran businesses. Those are the kinds of contributions to policies and programs that we are looking to deliver into the system by taking rack and pinion steering control of it, and our effort to make sure that our fraternity members, that's our veteran-owned small businesses, have a equal playing field, equal a position on the playing field. That's the first step that we're taking in recapturing our time, right? We're recapturing our time, right? Because there are, as I said, some policies that just don't make sense that have been implemented, and there's some policies that need to be implemented that people aren't taking into consideration. Like, for example, and should I let it out of the bag? I, should I?
I'm not sure what it is. I'm not gonna say yeah. No.
Okay, well, you know,
no telling. No telling.
Mr. Hill just saved you, because I was about to let out the bag what our next action is going to be after we get our veterans authorized to help revitalize, right, our manufacturing infrastructure. After we get our veterans, right, back in the game in our ability to help reshore our supply chains, right? We have another action that we believe needs to be considered, and that surrounds the Small Business Act, right? We believe that the Small Business Act, which hasn't been reauthorized since 1997, we need to take another look at that, because there's some shenanigans in that act that just don't comport with where technology has risen to. Like, for example, the whole size standard consideration, given the impact that AI and technology has had on the ability for businesses to be efficient, you know, more with less. We need to take another look at that Small Business Act and determine whether or not it still comports to and supports the needs of our society relative to the ability for large businesses and small businesses to coalesce and create bigger small businesses, right, through the active employment of joint venturing and affiliation exemption, right? We need to take another look at some of these programs that were contemplated back in the Clinton administration and update them for today's environment. All these things and more, we the people have the power to do if we employ it. If we just have the pathway, audacity, and unmitigated gall to, like Dorothy, recognize we've always had the power.
And the fact of the matter is, veterans, especially veterans, we don't have to ask for permission.
Explain to them why veterans don't have to ask for permission.
We don't have to ask for permission because we have laws, we have statutes that back us from end to end, not executive orders, but actual statute that's in legislation that protect us. So we don't have to ask for permission. They have to do it.
And in the other programs, the other preference programs that have been disturbed by statute and law, those programs give the veteran community the indicator that says you need to get in now, right? Because your legal advantage, right, the advantage that you enjoy today that's covered by settled law, it could be changed, right, by the constitutional winds blowing. And so if you're a disabled veteran or a veteran, because we're bringing you online, this is the season for you to get your feces amalgamated and get into the game of helping America reshore our manufacturing assets, right, to restabilize our supply chain. Because as we go through this economic shift, there's one thing for sure and two things for certain, as my big sister would say. The government, the largest single customer in North America, is going to be the most reliable source for business. And if you're in, you're going to be in an insulated position. If you're out, you're going to be struggling like everybody else trying to keep pace. So I would encourage you to get in while the getting is good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I wanted to emphasize on the point from the last hearing from the VA where Congressman Van Orden, he said, we're not looking to be cheap with veterans. That shouldn't even be in the sentence. Efficient, effective, but not cheap. So there's a push for making sure that veterans are good in every way, economically, mentally, physically, in every aspect of veterans being good, that they're pushing that.
I have been saying this for the better part of the last 18 months. America wants its servicemen and women to be wealthy. And I said that there would be evidence of that fact. What kind of evidence do we have? We have all of the other preference categories through the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, moved to persona non grata, and the veteran and disabled veteran business community left in a safe harbor. Right. That means that if you're a veteran or disabled veteran, you are the least risk award source within the federal government against a $500 billion spend that occurs on average on an annual basis. Come on, man. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out, right? The opportunity is here. The opportunity is now. And I got excited, so I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. Because what I wanted to talk about was a little bit, or emphasize on the fact of the difference between an executive order and statute, because there's executive order 14240, but there's civil rights statutes that directly conflict with the executive order 14240, or it with. So what I'm simply saying, or what I'm asking is, could you explain the difference between the statute and an executive order, just for the laymen who may or may not understand that one overrides the other?
Sure. Like, in what Mr. Hill is pointing to is that there is a hierarchy of authority in the federal government as it relates to programs, policies, and procedures. And at the top of the pecking order is statute, right? Statute governs. And the reason that statute govern is traditionally the policies are derived from the statute, right? So you have the Code of Federal Regulations, right? And then you have the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, and that produces 13 CFR. That's the Code of Federal Regulations. Okay, I'm having a little brain fart with my civics here, so let me pull it together. You have statutes that create Code of Federal Regulation components, right? That govern the policies that implement the statutes, and from there you get the rules that occur at the agency level. So at the highest level of the totem pole, your statute is what governs. We are operating against the power of statutory authority that empowers our ability to capture contract actions. These other policies, whether they be orders or the like, do not trump, no pun intended, our authority under the statute. So to say it simply, because we're operating under statutory authority, we have the ability to take rack and pinion steering on how policies, regulations are employed against our statute.
Yes, sir. Yes. Now, what just popped up in my mind, do you think, like in this season right now, just the way how the government is being ran and how things are looking, that is still in an effective way? Like, we understand statutes override executive orders and policies, but in this season, it seems like that executive orders are having more authority, or the policies are having more authority and more influence on individuals, like more specifically the 1102 community.
And that's not exactly the case, because again, we live in a constitutional republic, right? And in that environment, right, the will of the people, right, the majority of the people are the ones that decide. So even our downrange systems support that same example. So let me give you an example that we often talk about and use it in this scenario. And that's the policy decision that the Secretary of the VA made to change the way ratings would be applied against veterans whose modalities were enhanced or should I say covered by medication. So in that instance, the Secretary of the VA made a unilateral decision at the agency level that if he could eliminate, right, veterans that were whose sickness or whose injury was covered by medication, there would be some type of a benefit to the agency. So the secretary, recognizing that at his level, he had the authority to implement that statute through policy, made the decision to make the policy change that would have had regulatory impact on the veterans. But because we live in a constitutional republic, he couldn't do that unilaterally. He had to advertise that fact, right, through the Federal Register. And when he advertised that fact through the Federal Register, the veteran community en masse raised their voice and said, not no, but hell no. And within days, that particular action was not just paused, it was rescinded, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's an example of how a statute at this level that says servicemen and women should be given disability ratings for the service or injuries that they have in the service. And that trickles down to the agency level where the agencies have to implement that policy, right? And the secretaries have the ability to say, well, based on, you know, this modality, that disability should get this percentage or that percentage, right? That's an example of how statutes trickle down to the policy level and are affected by the different bureaucrats, but it's also a beautiful example of how our constitutional republic actually permeates every layer of our system. And so once we realize, right, once we recognize what all of our rights and authorities are under this constitutional republic, the shenanigans go away, right? We stop allowing our elected officials to utilize our congressional offices and our Senate offices as their own personal piggy banks, right? We stop allowing them to abuse the people because we know our rights. We start holding them to a higher level of moral and ethical accountability, right? So that we don't have open secrets about staff members being abused, right? And no one taking action against. You know, at the end of the day, we live in one of the most wonderful nations in the world with one of the best forms of government ever conceived, a constitutional republic. And right now, we have an opportunity to demonstrate the power of that constitutional republic. And I'm encouraging every red-blooded patriot that's within the sound of my voice to have ears to hear and eyes to see that we need you to go out to the website that you see moving across your screen. We need you to reach out to your congressman. We need you to reach out to your senator, and we need you to ask them to co-sponsor a bill that allows him and her who bore the battle to participate in government contracting. Benign. Doesn't cost them anything. No cost to the budget, right? We just simply need them to show a patriotic demonstration that they have our interest at heart, right? Not some foreign government, right? Not some outside political party, but we, the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And guys, on that note, I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are out.